We're going to talk about one of my favorite role-playing game books of all time, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness. If you're a fan of the Turtles, a fan of role-playing games, or a fan of comic books, stick around. Hello, and welcome to my side of the laundry room. My name's Rob, and I want to talk about this book that I have here. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness. It was a Ninja Turtle role-playing game that came out in 1985 by Palladium Books. This was probably one of the very first licensing endeavors that Eastman and Laird had put the Turtles in. When this was released in 1985, the Turtles comic had only been going on for about a year, and they were actually only at issue number 4 by the time this came out. Now, everything that we know about the Turtles and their New York part of their mythos pretty much happened over those 4 issues. That had the Mousers, their origin, Shredder, the Foot. But it was from that issue that we got the otherworldly, the supernatural Turtles. They went into space, and that's where they fought the Triceratons and the TCRI aliens. And from there, they came back to Earth and then went off on a time and space adventure in a fantasy world with Cerberus the Aardvark, which was a very, very popular independent comic at the time the Turtles came out. Now, I apologize for the glare here. I'll probably just throw up a picture so you guys can see the cover in all of its glory. But let's take a look on the inside. Give you a little roadmap to my life at that time. I'd only been into Turtles for about a year myself when this came out. As I should point out, this version of it came out. See, anyone that bought the live-action Turtle movie soundtrack on tape got this cool sticker. I love the art, so I wanted to keep it with the book. That was before the Vanilla Ice soundtrack. Actually had MC Hammer on this one. Now, this is the 7th printing that came out in 1988. So, for me, my history with the Turtles is somewhere between 1986 and 1987, I saw them showcased in a magazine. And up to that time, I was just a bookstore, convenience store, spinner rack comic book collector. But when I saw the art and read up on it, I needed to have it. Between my first encounter with them in 1988 when this came out, I'd only really come across one comic, and that was First Publishing did a color graphic novel. And I think I got volume 2 of it, which I really had no idea what was going on because I didn't have volume 1. So when I stumbled upon this book, this became my Turtles Bible. Oh, and here's a interesting thing I noticed. It says here, Superheroes is a registered trademark held jointly by DC Comics Inc. and Marvel Comics Group. Its use in this text is solely as a descriptive term and is in no way meant to infringe upon said trademark. Now, that sounds crazy nowadays. I think this is the only time I've ever seen that in a book. And true or not, I have no idea. Now, this is the introduction and how to play a role-playing game portion of the book. But then we get into what it's all about. Animal characters. Now, anyone that is into the Ninja Turtles, into role-playing games, and into comics would find this interesting and a fun game. This is the system's attributes. Palladium had a couple different titles out when this came out, but they all followed the same structure, which was great because you could mix and match different genres into things. Either their fantasy, their horror, their future, their space stuff, which was really neat. One of the things I really enjoyed about the system. But here we go. Here are the animals that you get. Now these are very localized to North America, because anything truly unique falls into the zoo animal category. But we have urban animals, rural animals, and wild birds have their own thing. But you'd roll a percentile, which is 2d10, and you'd figure out which category you fell into. From there, you roll again and see what animal you'd be. So right there, that added a really cool element to the game, because if you wanted to, you could just pick what animal you wanted to be, or you could go this route and try to make something truly unique. Because over here we have our cause of mutation. And we have everything from random, accidental, deliberate, which then breaks down into types of experiments that you could have been involved in. And that kind of breaks into what skill set you would have. Like, you could have actually been made to be a ninja and be a Ninja Turtle type of character, or one that was created with psionic powers to try to be a military weapon. So from there you have that, but then you also have your wild animal education table, and this breaks down into what other skills you could have. So it all depended on how you rolled, which made it incredibly fun. One of the things I talked about with psionics is this game implemented a bio-E, which is bioenergy, in creating your characters. Because when you start, depending on what you rolled, you could have just been a super intelligent normal animal. Or you could be slightly mutated, even more slightly mutated, or even be an animal that looks like a human, but you have awesome animal type of powers. But all these cost points, and whatever points you saved here, you could spend those on getting psionics and different things like that. So we have our alignments, which, I mean, it's pretty much across the board to most role-playing games, except they just give them more of a contemporary spin. Breaks into how you earn experience points. And this is where we get into all of our different skills. Everything from domestic, which would be cooking, dancing, sewing, to pilot advanced vehicles like helicopters or jets. Then you had your secondaries, which, I mean, this is like what you train in, this is what you kind of hobby in. And it describes all of them and what kind of bonuses they get. And see, the book throughout is illustrated by Eastman and Laird, which was awesome. Now, here's your psionics, but then you also have your animal powers like claws, antlers, digging, glide, heightened senses, and teeth and tusks, and many other things. But now we get into the animals. Each one has its different bio-E's and sizes, and this is where we encounter more awesome art by Eastman and Laird, like this cool horny toad gunslinger, or this ape. But you go through all these cool animals. Here is a variety of different domestic dogs you could be mutated. A possum and a porcupine. I love these pictures. I think they're just perfect. Then, of course, under Rodent, you have a picture of the original Splinter by Eastman and Laird, and a picture of the turtles when they were in the mutagen. Here's a mutated Wolverine, but we'll get to him later. What was also great, it came with its own comic. This one takes place around Halloween, and I actually did a write-up on it 2 Halloweens ago. Now we get into the combat. Different hand-to-hand styles and what the attributes mean, like your armor, your attacks per turn, things like that. And we get into what the structural damage capacity is for items. Like if you were to shoot up a car, how long would it take for it to be completely destroyed? Here's your different hand-to-hands. And here is the picture of the coup de grace to Shredder, which pushed him off of the roof in the original #1. Now we have actual artwork from probably issue #4 of Raphael taking out one of the TCRI aliens. But here, different artwork from the comic showcased, different weapon artwork, and here's a whole bunch of different ancient weapons, which they did a whole book of just this type of stuff, and I loved it. Here we have different handguns, rifles, shotguns, and we have a very, at least for 1988 or 1985 actually, because I don't think they edited it too much, of different equipment and how much it costs and what it does. I mean, computers, basic computer, 48K memory and keyboard, monitor, black and white, hard copy printer, modem, device for sending and receiving data. But we even have lock picks. It even shows you some of the different lock picks. Now we get into the world that it created. The first adventure we have here is Caesar's Weasels. And it has Caesar, who's that Wolverine that we saw back a couple chapters ago. And it's him and his crew wreaking havoc across the land, and you can stop them. That's your thing. And it's, you know, imagine the TMNT world, but with these characters thrown in. And you have these cool weasel archer dudes, this mutated bat dude. But then we get into, which is kind of a spoof on the Care Bears, the Terror Bears. You have Pain, Fear, Doom, and Nightmare. And actually, the more recent Turtle cartoon paid homage to them with the Dream Beavers. They had the same markings on their chests. But they're psionic creatures that can cause extreme pain, fear, doom, or death. Or nightmares, I should say, sorry. Then your next adventure is Dr. Farrell, and he is a mad scientist that mutates animals. These are his 2 henchmen. You have Autoratus, which is a rat dude, and you have Carl, the rabbit. Then we have Terror on Rural Route 5, which is a hostage situation with these mutants, which are farm animals. You have a bull, a farm dog, and different pigs that are taking over and causing total destruction across the countryside. Now here is an offshoot of the foot called the leg, and they talk about some of them. Now we get to the turtles themselves with their stats. Now, at this time in the Turtles world, they were just growing into the personalities that we know now. They have a lot of the same skills, which makes complete sense since they're trained by the same person, and they have a lot of the same hobbies because of growing up together and being teenagers. Like, who has it? Like, you get over here to Mikey, study movies, study science fiction, study comic books. But then you get to Donatello, and it's electronic engineering, demolitions, advanced math, engineering. And here it tells the origin as it was seen in issue number 1. Then we have April, with how she looked in the comic for the most part, till the cartoon kind of nudged them in a different direction. And we have Baxter Stockman and the Mousers, Casey, which at this point had only appeared in Raphael number 1, which was the very first micro series that Mirage put out with the Turtles. We have Shredder, TCI Aliens, and then we get into another campaign type setting, but this is called After the Bomb. And a majority of the Turtles role-playing game books focused on After the Bomb, which was animals mutated after a nuclear fallout, and it's a wasteland Mad Max type of world. Here we got a warthog dude, an alligator dude, and a ape all fighting over a cat to eat it. But you also have solicitation for these other books, and when you're reading this as a kid, you're like, oh my god, I gotta get these. And I had such a hard time, at least in the 80s, finding these books. I had to have them all. Here's the back art. Again, sorry for the glare. I'll try to throw up a nice picture of it. But this is just a little walkthrough of a book that's very special to me. I mean, look at the price back in the day. $9.95. You can't beat that nowadays. This book would be like $30. But anyway, thank you for taking this journey with me. I'm going to cover some of the other Turtle books. I wish I could say, go out and play it, but it's very hard to come by. But if you ever do come across it, pick it up. It's great for your collection, and give it a shot. I mean, gaming seems to be in nowadays for a little bit of everybody, so give this a shot. It's a different system. If you play Rifts now, you'll know what this is, because I think that's Palladium's biggest seller right now. But thank you for taking this walkthrough with me, and I'll catch you next time. See ya!